California Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. I'm glad you're with us today. Our guest is Michelle Steele. She is the Vice Chair of California State Board of Equalization. I must tell you, she is California's highest ranking Republican woman, and there's so many firsts that you are, but let's just move on and talk about the 9 million people that you represent in our great state of California. For our viewers, what's the basis of your job? What do you do exactly?
Well, we collect taxes.
That's simple.
So I don't want to people say that I'm a tax collector. Usually I give them money back. We did that for security deposit, tax, that we gave them over $100 million so far. So I'm very happy to report that.
But I think the more, if I may say, the more important part of your job, at least to the everyday taxpayer, is you act as a judge and an arbiter when there's a complaint. So explain that.
Every month, it's mandatory by the law that we have to have a hearing every month. So when you have a problem with the franchise tax board, and you have a problem with your property taxes, and you have a problem with any sales taxes, then you come to us. Then we are the one actually decide that who's right and who's wrong. And
I know that the BOE, all four of you on the BOE, will hold seminars to assist taxpayers with filing. There's also earned income tax credits that may be available. So you're working to be really taxpayer advocates.
Right, exactly.
As opposed to tax collectors.
That's right, because I don't want them to get into trouble.
Fair enough, fair enough. I do want to talk to you about a couple of taxes that passed recently through the legislature. You are required to collect them, but that being said, I know that you have some concerns about them, and you're not alone.
Right.
One of them is a fire tax. Could you back up a bit and explain what that tax is?
Fire tax is, in state responsibility areas. So there's like a rural area that they might have fire, like wildfires that they might have. Those people actually, they're already paying taxes. So, they are, if we start collecting, actually we are, because they are BOE. I cannot say we because I'm very much against it, but BOE is going to send out the letter from August till December. And as soon as you get a letter, you have to pay these taxes.
And let me just...
It's $150, and then that bill was passed.
Yeah, let me just be clear. It is a tax. It's called a fire prevention fee, and it's for those individuals that live in what's known as rural areas. So it doesn't apply to all Californians. I believe it applies...
It applies only 827,000 people.
And we have 37 million people in our state, so it's about 1/37th of the state. There's been an issue about whether the tax was passed in a constitutional manner. As we know, in order to pass a tax or a fee in our state, pursuant to Prop 26 and other items, you need to have a 2/3 vote.
Yes, you're right.
These did not pass, or at least the fire tax did not pass. It was passed by a majority vote. So talk me through it. Was there a violation?
Yes, there is a violation.
In your mind?
No, it's not just my mind, because first of all, Prop 13, they are very clearly stated that you cannot charge any more fees or taxes under anything about the fire fee. So that's illegal to begin with. And second, tax and fees are totally different matters. Taxes is general tax that it benefits everybody. Fee means that when you pay, you get direct benefit. But this one is different because fire tax, I call tax, they call so-called fee. This fire taxes, like for under my district, those 6 counties, like Imperial County has only 17 homes are affected. Very small. But guess what? When Cal Fire, when they go out and create the programs, whatever they do, this is not going to fire department or firefighters directly. This is only for the fire prevention. It's kind of like let people know, guess what? These people, when Cal Fire is going to set up some programs, it's going to go out to not those 17 homes, but it's gonna go out to the whole county.
And that's the key of the argument, because what Prop 26 says is for any tax or fee that benefits the public broadly, you need a 2/3 vote.
Exactly.
And so what you're saying is, if it was a fee that benefited those 17 homes in Imperial County, then maybe Prop 26 wouldn't apply.
That's right.
But you're saying, just so I understand it and our viewers, that the money isn't going just for those homeowners specifically to prevent fires, but into a general fund. Is that accurate?
Exactly. And it goes out to whole county. That's the problem.
Now, as I understand it, I may be wrong, maybe you remember, there was a challenge brought to the fire tax upon passage. And what the court said is, we can't hear it yet because it hasn't gone into place.
When you start collecting it and when people get the bill, then we can sue them. So that's exactly what Howard Jarvis Tax Association is working on right now.
And so as we speak today, there hasn't been a lawsuit filed.
No.
But I would presume that a lawsuit will be filed and then it could be heard on the merits.
Exactly. But there is actually, the bill came out on the floor by two good Republican Assembly members, Kevin Jeffries and Paul Cook. And
Kevin Jeffries.
And they came out, guess what? It just died and it's under suspension file. So what happened is we have to, so you know what we have to do is we have to call all the Assembly members, bring that back, or Howard Jarvis is going to help those people to file the lawsuit.
So it's a dual track. You're trying to get it repealed, and the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association is looking to challenge it on its face.
Exactly.
The challenge, though, is let's say that the tax is held unconstitutional. Then we have a greater deficit because we have less money than what would have been collected through the tax. What the tax will collect? How much?
About $85 million.
So,
but you know what? Actually, it's not short because of that $16 billion deficit that we did fiscal mismanagement. I always say we because I was raised in Asia, but you know what? It's not me. But California government itself is doing it. So those people suppose that government suppose cover those areas and those houses because they are collecting taxes. But that's not what they are doing it. So that's the reason that they try to raise taxes instead of what they used to spend from their general fund. Now they want to raise it and try to use it for the prevention
So let me ask
plan.
you, if the fee tax, however you want to call it, went
it's
specifically, whatever the word is, went specifically to protect those homes in high fire areas, what would you think of that?
They're already paying it. 90% of those people are already paying taxes. So this is going to be double taxation because they're paying to the city, they're paying to the counties.
Are they paying special taxes because, like, for example,
special taxes because of fire prevention?
Because they are in high fire zones.
Exactly.
So your feeling is, even if it was an appropriately passed fee targeting specifically the high fire areas, you know, you have flood insurance, you're in a floodplain, but it's because they're being
a double
taxed
taxation.
In our final closing minutes, I do want to ask you about a lumber tax that is being considered in the legislature as we speak. It would increase sales tax by 1% for lumber sold in California. It would need 2/3. There's no suggestion otherwise.
Exactly.
What do you make of this lumber tax?
It's totally not the case. That's the way let me put it.
It's because case,
as is in California, when you cut trees, they're paying 2.9% taxes that they're already paying. On the top of it, when you put another 1%, right now under $16 billion deficit, guess what they have to do? They have to bring more businesses and they have to, create more jobs. This is gonna create more trouble for building industries, and they have to pay another 1%. And then they don't even know what kind of size the lumber that they supposed to charge 1% or what kind of woods they supposed. So it's not very clear.
Does this bill have a legitimate chance? I think 2/3. It seems as if it's going to die a quick death.
Those good people, they're holding really tight. It's not going to pass.
Yeah,
that's what I am hoping.
We also know, finally, that there's an initiative on the ballot, Prop 30, which would increase sales tax by 1/4 cent for 4 years, increase taxes on the wealthy for 7 years. Have you taken a position?
Any taxes, it's no. How are you going to say $250,000, making per year is rich in California? There's so much expenses. Yes, $250,000 is a lot of money, but you cannot really tax another percent. And then plus over $500,000, it's going to be 2%. And then over $1 million, it's going to be 3%. Guess what? California is the highest income tax, people are paying comparing to other states.
Her name is Michelle Steele. She is the Vice Chair of California's Board of Equalization. My name is Brad Pomerance. We'll be right back on Charter California Edition.
California's Board of Equalization was created by amendment to the California Constitution in what year? 1879, 1899, 1918, or 1934? California's Board of Equalization was created by amendment to its Constitution in 1879.
It's Charter's California edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. Our guest today is Gary DeLong. He's a member of the Long Beach City Council, also a candidate for the United States Congress. And sir, I want to talk to you about an issue that is impacting city, state, and our nation as well. As you know, recently, 3 cities in our great state of California filed for bankruptcy. Not small cities. Cities like San Bernardino, cities like Stockton, a smaller city like Mammoth Lakes. What do you see? What do you make of this recent wave of bankruptcies?
Well, first of all, let me just tell you that Long Beach will not be number 4.
I would presume that, and I want to talk to you about why that is the case. But why don't you continue, sir?
We are fiscally healthy. We're going to do well in the future. We're going to balance our budget every year. We're making systemic changes. But I would tell you, I do see more and more municipal bankruptcies on the horizon. These aren't just the only 3.
When you look at Mammoth Lakes is a separate case because they had a judgment against them. So let's not talk about Mammoth Lakes. Let's focus on San Bernardino and Stockton. Both of those communities suffered tremendously under the weight of the recession. Both of them faced huge, and still face huge foreclosure crises. Both of them faced huge drops in sales tax, in property tax. That's one side of the ledger.
That's the revenue side.
That's the other. That's one side. There is also an argument that these bankruptcies were brought on by generous pension packages. What do you see? Or employee packages, I should say.
Sure. Well, let me just say both of those things are correct. Right? Because what happened is when San Bernardino, in this case, was booming and revenues were growing, then they rewarded the employee base with bigger pensions, higher salaries, et cetera. And then what happened is when the economy dove and all of a sudden revenues started declining, they had all these financial commitments out there that they had made to the employees that they can no longer meet.
I guess what I want to get at, though, is that in the wake of these bankruptcies, you've seen a lot of, I'll call it bashing of the public employee unions. It's the public employee unions' fault because they extracted generous employee packages, generous pension packages. Is it fair to lay, let's call it the majority of the blame, at the seat of the public employee unions?
Well, first of all, let me just say, I don't see it as their fault if they had a much better negotiating team than the city did.
Fair enough.
Right? I mean, you know, if I sign a bad deal, well, shame on me, not the fact that they're a better negotiator than I am. So I certainly don't think it was their fault. Now, if they could be criticized of anything, and let's go to the city of Long Beach.
Please.
Our police officers, our firefighters, they came to the table. They were mid-contract, they came to the table, they voluntarily worked with the city, and they reduced benefits.
I mean, I understand that for this coming fiscal year, there have been pension concessions made by the safety unions, which will save the city about $6 million.
I think it's even a little bit more than that, but it's very successful negotiations. Again, they came to the table and they didn't have to. Now, let's look at the other unions. Many of them have done the same thing, city attorneys, city auditors, et cetera.
Right.
The International Association of Machinists, they have not. So when you say if you blame or guilty, you got to give compliments to public safety that came to the table, but the other units dragging their heels, and what my fear is they have 1 year left on their contract. If they can't come to the table and meet in the middle on this thing, then I can't tell you what's going to happen to them, but it's going to be ugly. Because if necessary, the mayor said he's going to put an item on the ballot. And I will tell you, if the people of Long Beach vote on pension reform, it will be a much worse deal for that set of employees than anything negotiated at the table with city management.
It's funny you mentioned that because, as we know, recently there were 2 cities that had pension reform on their ballots. San Diego and San Jose. Fairly moderate cities. And
liberal for San Jose, candidly.
Some would argue.
Yes.
And yet pension reform passed overwhelmingly.
69%.
And fairly, I'll call it draconian measures. I mean,
yes. Very substantial.
That some would argue aren't even constitutional.
Depends on your point of view, but they weren't tweaks. You're right. They were very substantive changes.
I do want to ask,
as we will do in Long Beach too. If we put it on the ballot, it will not be a tweak. We will be making major changes. We've had those conversations.
And I don't know if you know this, but over the last few years, there have been 20 pension reform measures on the ballot. 18 have passed. The only 2 that didn't pass were out of San Francisco. There you have it.
Exactly.
I do want to talk to you about the economies, though. When you look at San Bernardino, they really suffered when Norton Air Force Base closed in the mid-90s. Long Beach had been reliant upon our military complex.
Navy.
The Navy. So why is it that the Long Beach story is not as sour as the San Bernardino story?
Well, you know, I'll tell you, there's two main differences between Long Beach and San Bernardino. One is the Port of Long Beach.
Right.
So we were able to take that Navy base, and we were all extremely concerned when we lost it, but then we turned it into a revenue-producing asset. We added to the Port of Long Beach. We created high income, good movements jobs. It's been a boom, not a bust for our economy here in Long Beach. Not that we're not struggling and don't have financial challenges. We do, and we have beaches.
That helps.
It
but
does.
What's interesting is the Inland Empire has been reliant for many years on the ports. One wouldn't think that, but they have huge distribution centers and storage centers, and yet that city has just fallen under the weight of such massive debt. And yet the next biggest city 20 miles up the road, probably even less, Riverside, is doing just fine. What's also interesting about the scenario there is tremendous infighting amongst the mayor, the city council, the city attorney. How pivotal is a positive relationship amongst council members? When I look at Long Beach, and I'm an outside observer, you may disagree on issues, but there does seem to be a sense of mutual respect at a minimum. Am I wrong?
No, I think you're absolutely right. We have a variety of opinions, which is healthy. That's a good thing. You don't want everybody in lockstep. But I think we have an outstanding mayor and Mayor Bob Foster. I think at least a majority, if not unanimity at times, support where Bob wants to take the city. So we don't have two different camps. We're all trying to move the city forward to the best of our individual abilities.
I want to shift gears and talk about your race for the United States Congress. An exciting race. Both the Democratic Party and the Republican Party are targeting the race as kind of a hot race to follow. Registration does favor the Democrats, but yet if you look at voter trends, it does show that the race continues to be, at a minimum, a toss-up. And so talk to me about that race you're running against. I think I'd call him your friend, Alan Lowenthal.
We've known each other for years.
We do. Yep. How has the race been going? You're out and about, you're on the streets.
You know, first of all, your assessment is completely accurate. It does lean to the Democrats by a number of points, but yet in the June primary, the Republican candidates received more votes collectively than the Democrat candidates. So what we're finding, at least what I'm finding, is that people are moving away from the labels here in Long Beach.
I also want to talk about the labels between the counties, because the district is cut between LA County and Orange County.
Yes.
One would think, you know, there's such division between the two counties. It's night and day. They're miles apart.
I'm bringing it all together.
But my question, not so much as you bringing them together, but is that a bunch of hooey? I mean, are the voters that different between the two counties when you talk to them?
They're more conservative in Orange County.
But aside, okay, but that's fair. But not so much their political philosophies, but just their view, their concerns, their approach.
No, they're not. But you need to earn their respect.
More in Orange County than LA County?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Interesting.
You know, I can go into anywhere in Los Angeles County, perhaps an area that I'm not extremely well known as, and there's a relationship. We can start with things. And in Orange County, this isn't a criticism, but Orange County, it's kind of like, well, you know, kind of,
who's he?
Yeah, show me who you are, what are your credentials.
Right on the border? I mean, they got to know you.
I'm on the other side of the border.
But the Orange County Register covers Long Beach.
I'm on the other side of the border.
Really?
I have to earn my stripes. And you know, actually, I think that's fair. I think it's fair.
What is it like for you, sir? You're now playing on a national stage. Not that Long Beach isn't a major city, but the RNC's involved, the Republican Congressional Campaign Committee, your targeted race. I mean, it's got to be, you've been to Washington. I mean, it's got to be a bit different than Long Beach politics.
You know, it is different, but on the other hand, I'm trying to ignore it. Like, for example, the Democratic Committee is coming at me every week with a new Public Records Act request. They want to see DeLong's expenses. They want to know where he was on this date. Let me see his calendar. Let me see this. Let me see that.
Right.
I guess they're trying to search for some little things. Say, aha! You know, he's a really bad guy.
Both sides do it, of course.
No, but they don't. No, I
so
disagree with you.
The Republicans aren't searching for
Zero. We've done no, and I've told them in Washington, please don't do that.
Well, what do they say? Can you control them?
So far, no guarantees, but I'm going to run on my record, and I'm going to run on his record, on Alan's record, okay? That's how I'm going to run. I'm not going to look for some minor character, you know, incident and then blow up out of proportion. I'm not going to do that. That's not the campaign I'm going to run. I've explained that to the folks in Washington as well. We're going to earn every vote.
His name is Gary DeLong. He's a member of the Long Beach City Council. He's also a candidate for the United States Congress. That election will be held in November 2012. I'm Brad Pomerance. We'll be right back on Charter California Edition.
Since 1981, which state has seen the most Chapter 9 governmental bankruptcy filings? Alabama, California, Nebraska, or Texas? Nebraska. Reuters reports that quirks in local, state, and federal law have made Nebraska home to almost 1/5 of the more than 220 Chapter 9 bankruptcies filed in the U.S. since 1981.
Welcome back to California Edition. My name is Brad Pomerance. It's my pleasure to introduce you to the mayor of Signal Hill. Her name is Tina Hansen. We thank you so much for joining us. Before we talk about some important issues facing cities throughout the state, where is Signal Hill? What is Signal Hill? This is a statewide program. Talk to us about it.
Well, Signal Hill's the best city in California.
Of course it is.
We'll start there. Okay?
We start there.
That's the obvious.
Yes.
We're an interesting little city. We're only 2.2 square miles. We have about 11,000 residents. We are completely surrounded by the city of Long Beach, but we are very convenient to the 405 freeway.
Right.
And because of that, we have an auto mall, we have a Costco, we have a Best Buy.
Wow.
Yeah.
In 2 miles.
Yeah, in 2.2 square miles.
But what's interesting is how the city got started, because
Yes.
it dates back almost 100 years. Tell us
does.
about that.
Well, Signal Hill is one of the large oil production areas in the state.
Right.
And oil was found there in the early 1900s. And sorry, Long Beach.
It's okay.
But the oil producers did not want to pay oil taxes to Long Beach. So in 1922, they broke away and incorporated.
Unbelievable.
It's very crazy, and especially if you look at our boundaries.
So it's not obvious.
It's not obvious. They make no sense. They zig and zag. We go north of the 405 freeway. We have some housing developments where you actually have houses in both cities.
Oh, you're kidding.
No, I'm not kidding.
Oh my. What about school districts? Are you part of Long Beach Unified?
We are part of Long Beach Unified.
Okay.
We have 3 elementary schools. Well, they closed one.
Okay,
We
never
have
mind.
2 never
Right,
mind.
yeah,
Let's go
exactly.
back.
Next.
They have 2 elementary schools. They're opening a middle school
Okay.
in September, which is going to be fabulous.
Right.
It's a college prep middle school.
Nice.
They're going to have iPads, state of the art.
And high school?
We don't have one. They are building one at Hill and Redondo, and we are making a big push to have Signal Hill included within the geographical pool for it.
So where do your students go to high school? Are they all
Wilson.
going? All 2.2 miles is off
Right.
to Wilson, which is a pretty good school.
It is.
So that works out nicely.
It is.
Okay, I want to talk to you about challenges facing cities throughout the state.
Okay.
As you know, I've spoken with many council members about this. As you know, and mayors, we have seen 3 municipal bankruptcies
Right.
in California recently.
Right.
Mammoth Lakes, a smaller city, but that dealt with a judgment. We're lawyers. That dealt with a
Right.
civil judgment. They couldn't handle the civil judgment. Then there's Stockton and there's San Bernardino, who faced tremendous challenges. And the mayor of San Bernardino, Patrick Morris, has said on the record, part of the reason why his city spiraled into bankruptcy was the loss of redevelopment.
Right.
Did Signal Hill have redevelopment agencies?
We did.
Okay, so tell me what's your view of the demise of redevelopment and the notion that its elimination is causing these fiscal crises in various California cities?
I think that it was an absolute travesty.
Those are fighting words.
They are.
And words I've heard before.
Yes. I think that it was unconscionable of Sacramento to do that. As much as I, love our legislators, they know how we feel about this. We felt betrayed. We felt absolutely betrayed by this.
And what's so interesting about the elimination is, with term limits, so many of those legislators grew up on city councils.
That's right.
And were mayors like yourself.
That's right.
And yet, I think it's fair to say that with a Democratic governor wanting to eliminate redevelopment and Democratic majorities,
right.
If you would have asked me, I would never dream a Democratic governor would eliminate redevelopment.
Right.
It's a program that feels very Democratic. It may help Republican developers,
right.
but it feels very Democratic, and yet the fiscal crisis in Sacramento was so dramatic.
Right. They wanted money.
They needed the money. So what is a city like Signal Hill doing to try to lure development? I mean, like you said, you're an island around Long Beach.
Right.
You're competitive, I'm sure, trying to attract business.
Right. I don't know that we'll be able to lure. Well, let me go back. Most of our deals, in the past, we don't structure deals like other cities do. We don't normally do sales tax sharing.
I understand.
But what we can't do in Signal Hill, and what's going to just stop development on these large parcels, is we're not going to be able to do cleanup anymore. And that's what's needed in Signal Hill.
When you mean cleanup, meaning
contamination from the oil fields, right. So we have this beautiful parcel, up on Spring Street, across from our Home Depot. We have 2 Home Depots, by the way.
Two?
2.
In 2.2 square miles?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Yes, but we won't be able to clean that up. So that'll just sit there, you know, and there's no developer that's going to be able to do that
super
by
fund
themselves.
money? Or...
No, it's not to that point. So I think that we're just in a holding pattern at this time.
But let me ask you this. Earlier this year, I know that there were some legislators that were looking to create some type of compromise that would bring some form of redevelopment back. The initial compromise was struck down by the California Supreme Court. That's another conversation. But then we saw the deficit balloon.
Right.
And so all talk at bringing back, revitalizing redevelopment went away.
Right. And not only that, but we saw this terrible piece of legislation which basically gives the Department of Finance the right to come in and take property and sales tax if they don't think you're acting fast enough, if they don't think that you're, you know, giving the assets over you should be giving over.
And as you know, I think it was Glendale, Pasadena, they sued to try to prevent that, and they lost.
Right.
And so the song keeps on being sung, and the animosity between cities and the state continues.
Yes, it's strong.
So we also know that some of the challenges facing San Bernardino, facing Stockton, dealt with pensions and employee compensation.
Correct.
How has Signal Hill faced what some would argue are increasing costs to employees because of benefit plans?
Well, a very long time ago, and my city manager always reminds me that it was my idea.
Of course.
And I don't remember that it was my idea, but I believe him. But many years ago, when I saw that PERS was talking about, you know, we're going to increase the rates and our under return, and I actually suggested that we start a PERS reserve fund. And we did that many years ago. And the thing about Signal Hill is when we've had good years, we haven't spent all of our money. We've put it into reserve funds. We put it into PERS reserve. We put it into economic uncertainties reserve. We put it away for a rainy day. And that's why we still have a balanced budget. And that's why we still have an economic uncertainties fund. And so as, you know, PERS went crazy.
Rainy day fund.
Yes. As PERS, which we needed being so sales tax dependent, we drew it down to, you know, almost $1 million, but now we're back up to 4. But we had this reserve. And the other thing we did was we made a really hard choice. We told our employees, we can't give you a COLA, we can't—
Cost of living increase.
Right, we cannot give you your step increases, and you're going to have to start paying into your pension and into your retiree medical benefits.
Part of the negotiation with, with the public service.
And we went to impasse. With, yes, with our police department and with our general employees. So you have a council meeting where they're there telling you, you know, how you're impacting them. And I said, you know, I work for a governmental agency too. And my son asked me, Mommy, do you get paid less every year? And I said, no, I get paid the same every year, but everything costs more every year. So I understand what you're saying, but we have to make these hard choices. And because we have, you know, we're fiscally sound.
It is very fortunate because when a city the size of Stockton, I mean, it's the largest municipal bankruptcy in the nation ever, and now San Bernardino, there are rumors about other cities, even in the Southern California area.
Right.
You mentioned sales tax and the importance of sales tax.
Right.
And how is sales tax generated? People shop locally.
Correct.
And so talk to me about how many cities do this, but how you're pushing this notion of shop local.
Well, Ellen Ward, one of my fellow council members, you know, is very passionate about this. We're starting a program with our Chamber of Commerce to, you know, put together information. But, you know, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be Signal Hill. It can be any city. Any citizen can support their city by going to their city and spending their money in their city and bringing revenue into their city, bringing sales tax into their city. Everyone says, what can I do? That's what you can do.
It's that simple.
It's that simple. You know, if I need to go to Target, sometimes it's easier to go to a different one, but I'm not giving the sales tax to my city, so I go to Signal Hill. Costco, I go to Signal Hill. You make those choices. You stay local in your city. You give them back your sales tax money.
And it's interesting because my gut tells me that many residents, many citizens don't realize that sales tax does flow partially to the municipality.
Right.
Yes, a good portion goes to the state,
right,
but the county and the city also takes in a significant portion of that sales tax, and that's how many cities really, that's their budget.
70% of our budget
is sales tax.
Yes.
I mean, that's a huge number. Tina, I want to thank you so much for joining us. Her name is Tina Hansen. She is the mayor of Signal Hill. She's the mother to twins. She's a deputy district attorney. I don't know how she does it all, but I thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
My name is Brad Pomerance. Thank you so much for watching Charter California Edition.